Hello, this is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com, and today we're going to go over my personal recce build setup. So now, what is a recce build and what is the purpose of use, as well as what value might there be for you to be able to have a setup like this? Now, I'm using the term recce very loosely because there are different definitions in regards to how people define what a recce build is. So I'm just going to give you my thought process and the reason why I built it, and kind of the different pieces that I use to put together to make this setup the way that it is. So to my understanding, the recce concept was first introduced in around 1993, where SEAL teams wanted an option to be able to have a magnified optic that's usually around 2.5 to 10 power in magnification, and they wanted to be able to have something that's used for mid-range. So talking about, let's say, around 500 yards. At the same time, they wanted an option that if they were doing mid-range stuff and a unfortunate situation happened nearby, they could just tilt the gun or have backup options that will give them zero magnification to be able to immediately use it. So coming from then till now, obviously technology has very dramatically evolved, and there's a lot of really great options and products available on the market today. So for me, I felt that going from a zero magnification, meaning an LPVO, a zero magnification to 6 or a zero magnification to 10, that's definitely going to be sufficient for the technology that we have available today. As well as, instead of using what generally was seen to be offset iron sights, we now have the ability to have very reliable offset red dots that, again, just kind of enhance the capabilities of what it is. So now, what's the value of a recce setup? Specifically, again, in my opinion, for something that starts at 1 magnification to 10, is that for the environments that I live in, I kind of live in a more rural area, so it's not uncommon that there would be a distance of engagement that would be around 150 yards. So 150 yards is most definitely able to be taken with a regular 11.5-inch barrel, but having obviously a 16-inch barrel with better velocity, as well as a very clear and nice magnified optic, will give you more identification abilities and more efficiency if you're going to be in an environment that might still have other people involved. So I think being able to have very good target identification and being able to be efficient with that setup is a very valuable thing. Specifically today, with all the unfortunate active shootings that are going on and different environments that are going to happen, I am not saying in any way that you should just start taking guns and start running into any direction, but having an option that has very clear and good magnification and being able to be as accurate as possible, especially in those kind of environments, I think is very important. Again, as well as if you're going to be in an environment where those distances might be further out, having, again, good magnification, but also the option of an offset mount to be able to do very close in work, I think is very cool. So the original design, to my understanding, again, of the Recce Rifle was a 16-inch barrel. They were going to be using, I believe, 77 grain ammunition. So since the bullet weight is a little bit heavier, you're going to have slightly less wind resistance when you're going out further. And the way that I set it up is that I have the Midwest Industries rail with a fluted 16-inch barrel. This barrel is chambered in 223 Wild. The reason why is that for me, I'm generally going to be shooting more 223 than I am 5.56. So since this is obviously for me more of a recreational build, I like the fact that I could use ammunition that will be more commonly available to me and also slightly more affordable. The 223 Wild barrel means that it's going to be slightly more fitted so that the accuracy of 223 will be efficient. So just as a very quick overview, if you have a rifle that is labeled on the barrel to shoot 5.56, you could shoot 5.56 or 223. If you have a barrel that's marked as 223, you can only shoot 223 and not 5.56. 223 Wild is the median between those two barrel options, where you could shoot 5.56 and 223, but since it's slightly more tuned to be able to shoot to 223 a little bit better, you usually get a little bit more accuracy out of it. Now, this entire upper was built and assembled custom for me from Armory Valentine. They reached out to me, they said, we want to put together a fully set of build for your choosing, like what would you want? So they did a lot of work on this upper to be able to get it to where it is. So a few little details that are very much preference things for most people is that this doesn't have a forward assist. The barrel is a 16-inch barrel that's fluted all the way through, which is really cool. They attached a Surefire Pro Comp muzzle brake to the end. And as well as this original barrel was in a full stainless steel, and they had it Cerakoted to black, which just adds to the aesthetic and making it work well. On the bottom, I have a Arca Swiss rail, which I think is a very valuable thing to have on rifles right now, because I have this tripod that's able to be moved up and down or completely removed, and then I could also mount this onto a tripod and get a lot more accuracy out of it and stability. Now, for a recce build, I felt that it would be very important to be able to have a good flashlight that's going to work along with it. So standard flashlights might not be as ideal than what you'd be able to get from this setup. So for this setup, I went with the Blazer, which is from Z-Bolt. Z-Bolt makes these really high intensity flashlights. I made a dedicated video on that in the past, where you're able to use this flashlight to get to around 1,200 yards, which is unbelievable for the efficiency. At the same time, they have a different filters that you're kind of able to use, that if you unscrew it, you get the full power of that 1200 yards, or this is a diffuser that widens the spread of that light, so you're able to use it for closer in distances as well. But again, at any point, if I really need to take a shot at that distance, that simple removal of that lens will make it be able to work that way. Since it's a recce build, I still would want to be able to have it handy and lightweight. So this setup is actually really not that heavy, and not as heavy as you'd think. So I also have a vertical hand stop over here that just makes it more comfortable for general use, and not if I'm not going to be using a tripod. Now, the optic that I chose for this specific optic is going to be, it was just set up as a testing platform. I'm going to switch it out, but for an optic that costs less or around $100, it worked pretty well. Again, this optic is less than $100. It is not going to be the main optic I'm going to use on the setup, but for someone who's looking to put just a recreational build together and have a good time at different distances and have kind of a recce build setup, a optic like this actually worked very well. I'm going to be making a dedicated video on this specific optic to let you know how it ran. And then I have an offset mount. I'm using the Strike Industries ambush mount, which is a 45-degree offset that also gives you a lot of abilities to choose between different optics that you might want to run. So specifically, I'm currently using the Holosun 509T, which I like being able to be a fully enclosed emitter, so I'm not worried about anything or any debris getting onto the inside and blocking the efficiency of it. And this whole lower is the KE Arms monolithic lower receiver, which is really lightweight. So this whole setup, again, being very, very lightweight for what it is, and you're able to literally just move it around very casually. It's a very lightweight setup, specifically because the barrel's fluted. It's using the ultra lightweight rail from Midwest Industries that really helps out, and is really kind of a very slick setup. So I felt like this would be a very cool setup to kind of show off in regards to being able to show you what it's capable of. Since this setup was really lightweight and very easy to use, I was also able to have an impact at 150 yards just freestanding with the setup. Again, it is a lot more fun to be in like kind of the bipod prone position, but it really shows the capability of this rifle. I was also very much using very cheap ammunition just because that's what I had available at the time. So again, this really wasn't a test about accuracy. This is more of like a test to understand the concept of what this rifle is and if it might be something you might be interested in going into. So let's roll that footage and I'll give you my initial thoughts at the end.
Do center, see what happens. Perfect. Okay, so that was just left. We'll do that again. That was great. Let's do that one more time. Okay, I'm gonna try headshot. We'll see if that works out. I favor a little right. One more time, a little higher. That's nuts.
So this is still kind of my initial impressions of the setup. This is just finished and just being built. I was looking for a long time to try to figure out how I would set up this upper and kind of the different parts and accessories I'd want to use. Again, other than exchanging the optic, which again, I'm going to make a dedicated video on why, I think this is already pretty much done in regards to the kind of setup I want. So the offset the way that it is, the optic the way that it is, just again, different optic, but the setup in regards to having a LPVO. The flashlight setup I think is incredible. It does have the momentary and full on once you do give it a full click. And again, I think for a very simple and very clean setup for a rifle build, this was a lot of fun to shoot. So if you have any questions, if you have a value or a purpose for why you'd use a recce build, I'd be very curious to hear in your specific environment, in your world, what that value would be. And also, if it's just gonna be for fun, what parts and components would you switch out to make yours a little bit better or fit the needs that you have? So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comment section below, and I'd love to be able to get back to you. This is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com. Thank you for watching.